Here's a text that says, E, calm down. It's just one game. Look, well, Florida was just one game. And I'm certainly by no means going to overreact to one win. And it's that can happen when it's the afterglow of the Oklahoma game. But, it was Mac Brown. We played Mac Brown sound last week. This is the only game. It's like having a Super Bowl or a bowl game, a big bowl game right in the middle of your season. And it impacts the game before and it impacts the game after. For both sides. And it has forever. It's what we always talk about. That game never changes, right? It's the most unique game. But that never changes, too. That I think Texas was looking ahead to Oklahoma when they didn't take Florida seriously.
Fair to say that.
Because think about it. Oklahoma had essentially 3 weeks to get ready for that game. Oklahoma played, they had 2 tough games with Michigan and Auburn, and then they had a bye week in Kent State. And so they had 3 weeks because they didn't prepare for Kent State. And
nobody needs to.
And they came out on fire. Now, should John Mateer have played? That's something Oklahoma will always – I think the John Mateer playing tells you just how bad they think – because if you saw Michael Hawkins, their backup quarterback, play against Kent State, he was not going to give Texas or Oklahoma a chance to win that game. At least John Mateer gave them a chance. And then when he got hit on the hand, which you knew he would – I know he said it didn't hurt, but God, that's a tough dude. I don't care what anybody says about John Mateer. I know he wasn't very accurate, and he threw 3 interceptions, and the interception before the half was inexcusable. But same time, that dude, they asked him several times in the postgame, what was your pain level? He's like, didn't hurt. Pain wasn't the reason. But that thing was hurting like it was bleeding.
Of course, he's not going to say that.
These stitches came open. I mean, that guy had surgery 17 days previous. So I'll give that guy a toughness medal, but obviously the Oklahoma coaches felt like he gave them a better chance than Michael Hawkins, even not 100%. But we knew that going in, and Texas took advantage of it.
Florida had the hardest schedule going into that Texas game. I mean, you just call it how it is. And then they had to go to A&M, but now Oklahoma has the hardest remaining schedule after the fact. I mean, look who they have to play. John's going to have to heal up.
Well, and that's why this can be just one win, as the texter says. I mean, Texas has to build on this. Yeah. This cannot be the finish line. This now kind of explains Florida, that there was a look-ahead factor, that the locker room didn't take Florida seriously because they were 1-3 and didn't look very good on film against the teams they had lost to. And Sark and the coaches tried to tell them, no, this team's better than you think. And Texas learned a lesson there.
There are 3 losses to possibly 3 teams that are going to make the playoffs.
But here's now Texas showing us their potential ceiling.
Right.
But here's what Sark. So what's the question? Arch Manning grew up before our eyes. What we've seen from the Ohio State game through the stumbles and the struggles of September when he was still trying to make amends for that game instead of just playing football. His teammates saw him struggle, but now his teammates saw him get pounded at Florida, and they didn't play very well around him. And he took hit after hit after hit. But as Sark said, he got up and he didn't miss a rep at practice last week, not one, after taking all that hit. And he could have said, Coach, I need a couple days, man. I need some time off here. I'm beat up. Nope. He was there, and Sark said his teammates noticed that. They know they didn't play good. They know they allowed him to get pounded by the Gators, but he was there. And then when they needed him most in that game, he made all the plays. And people are going to say, look at the stats. He didn't do much. He wasn't that great.
He did enough to win the game by a lot.
No, he did everything that was required to win the game.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah.
That's what a Manning's supposed to do. That's what your starting quarterback has to do in that game and in every game to give you a chance to win the game, right? He avoided the rush instead of taking sacks. He kept his eyes downfield and made throws and didn't panic. He didn't throw into coverage when it wasn't there. He moved in the pocket, second-level throws where he rolled either way to make a throw down the field. On the scramble drill, he ran effectively. He wasn't lured into taking deep shots and throwing interceptions. And so once his teammates stopped having drive-killing penalties like they had in the first quarter, the offense was unstoppable. They went 12 plays, then they went 14 plays, then they went, 12 plays again, and they really much ran out. I mean, really the momentum of the third quarter, I thought, started in the second quarter when they stopped having holding calls and being 1st and 20, and they just started to wear out Oklahoma. And I said this earlier, but people who were at the stadium know this. Oklahoma was the side of the field that in this new 2:30 start time window, by afternoon, they were standing in the sun. Texas was standing in the shade. Texas was on the side covered by the press box. And so the Texas sidelines were standing in the shade. Oklahoma was standing in the heat of the 93 degrees in Dallas. And the combination of the Texas running game, the offensive line, and Arch Manning keeping drives alive just wore that team out. And obviously the punt return was the knockout blow. But listen to Sark when asked, what did we learn what did our team learn today? They have a quarterback that can win them a lot of games, but they also learned, as Sark says, how to fight.
We learned how to fight today. And I think that we don't have to wait till the 12th round to try to knock somebody out to win a game. We can win rounds, and we can continue to fight for 4 quarters. And like I said, I think we saw the true character of the men in that locker room today, their connectivity, their love for one another. You heard these 2 guys just say it, staying connected, continuing to grind with one another, because it's easy to succumb to these guys. And I think they responded.
Thank you, Sark. If Sark says it, we're going to go ahead and take the FCC, warning. We didn't say it. Sark said it. But that's where Sark is right now. He's all business. He's no BS right now.
No BS.
Because there was a lot of BS being said about the team. And look, the performance they delivered at Florida in the weeks leading up to that game allowed for plenty of criticism.
Sure.
But the people going to like the New York Times with Arches the biggest flop,
right.
The first flop.
That's the BS you're referring to.
Well, Texas bunkered down. But again, listen to Sark here. This is the key though, because as the texter said, it's 1 win. Calm down. Well, no, it's 1 win. It shows what they can be. But it cannot be the end and cannot be the finish line. I mean, that's really what this team has to be moving forward. They've shown the capability, but can they put in the work? Are they mature enough to do it week to week to week and not be a up and down team? Because that's why I keep saying last year's team proved to me, and I think to fans, that they weren't going to disrespect their competition and play down to it. But they weren't good enough to beat Georgia. They weren't good enough to beat Ohio State. But they were good enough and mature enough as a team to take every week seriously. I still have this locker room's in doubt for me right now because I've seen them not take Florida seriously. They didn't take UTEP seriously. Are they mature enough now to make this the new normal?
Right.
And build on learning to fight, finding in their quarterback, having their quarterback find his confidence and his rhythm, finding a left guard in Nick Brooks, who's 18 years old, who was out there mowing people. Once he stopped getting penalties early, remember he had 2 penalties on the first drive in his first ever start at left guard. Of his college career. He's the youngest and the biggest of the big humans, Noah. That dude was road grading people.
He was.
You're now seeing why they have him out there. And as Sark says, if you're good enough, you're old enough.
Yeah.
Get on the field, big man. And he and next to Trevor Gooseby and Cole Hudson next to him, they were moving the pile.
They totally
this is
were.
the best defensive line in the SEC.
That was the one thing we knew with Oklahoma is that's how a very strong
and those dudes were going
group.
the other way on those long drives
were.
when they needed a short yard. And that's you can build on that. So listen to Sark, though, who's saying the same thing. Like this is not the end of the deal. This is the beginning. We now know what we're capable of. Are we mature enough as a team to do it week by week?
We had aspects of our team that were experienced. We had other aspects of our team that were inexperienced. And so we have to continue to grow. As I said, my goal is that we're playing our best football at the end of November and into December, right? That's the goal. But we have to work towards that. We have to continually try to improve. We aren't a finished product today. We weren't a finished product a month ago. We're not going to be a finished product next week. But if everybody's striving to improve, if everybody's trying to get better at whatever we're asking of them, then we will get better collectively as a team. And like I said last week, we didn't have time for the poor me's. What we had time for was trying to improve and trying to get better as a team.
All right, and that's got to be the exact same mindset they take this week. Come in, go to work, treat Kentucky like you treated Oklahoma. That's the work. Whatever level of work you put in to get ready for this one because your season was at a crossroads, put that in again this week. Don't drop, because if they don't drop, if that preparation level doesn't drop, and it's human nature to let it, you'll crush Kentucky. Because Kentucky's not good. But if you let your guard down, don't prepare, and you disrespect them like you did Florida, Kentucky could beat you at night in Lexington. That's the goal. And that's where each team is its own snowflake, right? I mean, last year's team was mature. They didn't take people lightly. They handled, they trusted it when Sark said Vanderbilt's really good, get ready. And they went in and survived a tough, upset scare at Vanderbilt. But they weren't good enough, and their ceiling wasn't high enough to beat the best teams. This team's ceiling, I believe, is high enough to beat the best teams.
Right.
But they've got to come week to week because they won't get their chance to beat the best teams if they let their guard down against the teams that they don't take as seriously. That can't happen moving forward.
Natural growing pains happen, right? I mean, the offensive line, there was a lot of questions about them, and they came in and they dominated this game against a really good defensive line. I don't know tons about Oklahoma from their level of competition prior to this game. I know John Mateer's a baller, but I know their defensive line is solid, and that front seven specifically, and what they were able to do to them.
And they were fresh in 3 weeks to prepare.
Yes.
And Texas still shoved them over.
Right. But this was a crossroads game, and we talked about it all week last week. And now they're on the path of, hey, you're still on the track.
And again, to the texter that says it's just one game. Well, what we said all last week was this game will define Texas.
Yes.
We know what they are. Either they're just not a very good team, and that's what they are at 3-3, or they're going to be 4-2, and we're going to say, well, that's the team we thought we would see, and now that's what they are. That's what can you maintain that? is the question. Let me say one thing about some people will say their excuses. If you watch the game, the excuses or the things Sark said about why they were struggling, it starts to make more sense. One of the reasons Nick Brooks didn't get more work, remember he had the offseason DWI?
Yeah.
Well, he was essentially suspended for the first 3 games, and Sark just didn't announce it. That's an internal suspension. So why didn't he play against Ohio State? Why didn't he play against those other, Sam Houston or UTEP and San Jose State? Because he was suspended. So by the time he got on the field, it was the Sam Houston game, and then he was in the game against Florida. So this guy's starting to learn by his own mistake. He had to pay for that and not play in the first part of the season when he could have been gaining experience. So that's going to help this team raise its ceiling. Getting Trey Wisner healthy cannot be minimized.
Oh my gosh.
Trey Wisner he played against Florida, but the whole team played bad. He played against Ohio State and then didn't play because of a hamstring, because of an injury. So he's now back. You'll get CJ Baxter back at some point, which will add another piece to the run game. And so you can see that as Sark just said, we got to keep raising the ceiling.
Yeah.
And this team has a higher ceiling than last year's team. But again, I think they have shown they have a lower floor because of their youth and inexperience. But they are getting healthy. Now it's 2 winnable games and your season's back on track. But it's how you approach it from here will define what this team becomes. But boy, they found a quarterback. Well, actually, they had a quarterback. That quarterback found himself and found out how to lead and how to perform and to be exactly the piece that this offense
be
needs
a leader
him to
for
be.
this team. Clearly,
that's 100%. And now look. Oklahoma, as you say, might lose 5 or 6 games from here because of their schedule and their quarterback's hurt and they don't run the ball, all the things. So don't rest on this being just one win because you can do it, but give credit where credit is due. Trey Wisner is an all-time OU hero. I mean, the OU game produces these players that will go on forever. I mean, Longhorn fans were so ready for Quentin Griffin to graduate because Quentin Griffin just scored again. Oklahoma fans are like, can that Trey Wisner guy just get the hell out of here?
Right.
I don't want to see that guy again. But guess what? He's only a junior. He could be back next year in the Texas OU game, not far from his hometown of DeSoto, Texas. So that happened. So give credit where credit is due. But let's all tap the brakes on the big picture. It won't matter. It won't mean a hill of beans if they don't keep playing to that level and preparing to that level.